Hey everyone, I'm on to numero dos, and this time taking a step back and speaking about actually what integration is and different lenses through which to look at it. I know that it's a lot more spoken about nowadays, which is amazing and I'm so happy about, but I don't want to assume anything, and maybe there are people who don't quite know what it is or have heard it and still aren't quite clear. So I also wanted to offer up a couple different lenses or perspectives of how to think about look at integration, because this may change a lot depending on the context that we bring, the kind of experience that we have. For example, if it was therapeutic or mystical, more spiritual, ceremonial, might impact how we look at integration, and also what kind of things we might do to support our integration process. So to start, and this one's a little bit more on the harm reduction side, is this idea of tending to, caring for, returning to safety and stability from whatever came up in the experience. And this may be because there was something traumatizing, re-traumatizing, destabilizing that happened, or a lot of overwhelming or challenging emotions have come up, and really taking care for that so that the person doesn't walk away with more harm done than when they walked in. So sometimes that is the main focus of integration. As well, there's a concept of remembering. So remembering so that we don't forget. Sometimes if we don't take the effort and intention to remember what happened and what we saw or connected to in that experience, it kind of fades away like a distant dream. And this one leads to this other way of thinking about it, which is these seeds are planted and sprouted with our intention, with the experience, and integration is this process of nurturing, caring for, watering whatever we planted into something that healthy, that grows. Another way of thinking about it is doing the homework that we've been given. So sometimes people feel like they went in with an intention, or maybe not, and they came out with very specific things that they felt they needed to shift or take action upon or incorporate. And integration may be this period of, okay, I have the homework and it's time for me to do the homework before I go back for the next lesson. My yoga teacher shared integration as this process after an opening comes. So maybe this would be somebody that has a more spiritual or mystical experience, and it's this experience of an opening, of a touching upon something sacred or mystical, and it's the process after that and how to kind of support this opening that's come. Related to that, also another way to think about it is weaving the mystical into the practical. So if we had a mystical experience, more spiritual experience, how do we weave that into our day-to-day lives in a more tangible, practical way, so that we're really living out that truth in everything that we do, or in this, realm. Related to that, again, is another phrase of bringing the sacred back into the everyday, or as I like to think about it, like remembering the sacred back into the everyday, because it's always here. And I'll speak a little bit more about this when I speak about Tantra and why it resonates for me in terms of integration. But yeah, how do we weave the sacred, or this recognition, this remembrance of the sacred back into the everyday and everything that we do? And that may be after, again, a more spiritual, mystical experience, but doesn't have to be. Another way of looking at it, and this is very much as well more common in the therapeutic realm, is coming back into wholeness when we think about integration. So reconnecting with, welcoming back in all the parts of ourselves we have forgotten maybe, or disconnected from, or pushed away, and supporting ourselves through this process of integration, of coming back into wholeness, bringing those parts back in, repairing those connections that maybe we built or connected to in that experience. Another way of thinking about integration is incorporating whatever we experienced, whatever we connected to, saw, felt in that experience, whatever it brought, incorporating that into our being into our lives moving forward. And for this, what came to mind for me was actually from clay class. At the beginning, when we're first working with the clay, we combine two different kinds. So one that's in clay form and another that's in powder form. And in this mixing, this initial mixing, there's a bunch of this powder that we have to work in and incorporate. And they're two different colors. One's brown, one's white. And it almost seems like, okay, this is never going to mix in. But we keep kind of folding it in, folding it in, and then surely at one point it's all incorporated and it's just becomes one. It's like this fully and comes into this fully embodied one whole. Another, and this is I'll leave this as the last one, but sometimes when I'm speaking to people, especially who aren't in the space, and for myself, when I think about integration and I just take a step back, sometimes the easiest way for me to describe it is actually just this approach to life itself of growing and learning and healing from our experiences and all the teachers and facilitators of healing that we encounter along the way in our lives, however they present themselves, along this path towards becoming becoming more alignment with our fully authentic, expressed, embodied, whole selves. So I know that was a lot. I tried to get through all of them that I had to share. I know there's more, and open to hear if you have any particular ways that you like to think about or describe integration or lenses through which you look at it, because I think it's a really interesting thing that it could be so many different viewpoints and really depends on the person, the context they bring, and the kind of experience they had. And I think this is important because it also will, as I mentioned before, impact the kind of integration tools and support that one might want or need during the process, depending on what kind of experience they had and what their integration looks like.